Good morning, everybody. It's really exciting to be here. Uh, so, Maya already introduced me. I'm David. You usually see me as my last name because there are fewer hash collisions. There are a lot of Davids out there. I'm one of the co-founders of Tailscale. It's very exciting to be here. I already said that. It's also very humbling to be here. 4 years ago, we were three people starting a company. We started a company on the basis of how we think computers should work. We did not start a company with a product in mind. And so we really had nothing, and then we set out to find something. Today, we have hundreds of thousands of users, and I believe over 150 people here today. You all came out in person to share the interesting ways you're using Tailscale. Tell us what you're building with Tailscale, and connect with others who are doing the same. And I think that's wonderful. But of course, in a typical sort of Tailscale fashion, we decided we also want to show you some of what we've been doing. And so I have a few new things to share with you this morning, which will hopefully be like a fun way to kick off the day. I said this is our first user conference. This is also a conference focused on developers. And I think that deserves a little bit of an explanation. Why are we focusing on developers? And as a company, we focus on developers for many reasons. The first and obvious one that you explain in the board meeting is it's good business. As a developer, you use Tailscale at home, you use it for personal fun in a home lab, you use it on self-hosted infrastructure, and then you bring it to work, and work pays for it. And so that's the business case. Second, because we're developers ourselves, and we know that if you build a great developer experience, it means you'll actually enjoy using the product, and great developer experiences are few and far between. And so they really stand out. And if we can do it, which is not easy, but if we can do it, you'll share the product with others. And that, to date, is our primary way of getting people to use Tailscale, is people who use it already tell others about it. And lastly, but most importantly, is we have this company vision. And we can't actually achieve the vision without developers. We want to build these small, trusted, human-scale networks. And these small, trusted, human-scale networks are designed to connect people, a small number of people who you know. And what we've got today is the underlying network infrastructure that does that. And that's not actually enough, because it's really great that you can get a TCP socket between two people, but we need to build experiences on top of those TCP sockets. It's not the total story. And developers are going to build those experiences, and the ones that exist in the world today are not designed for these small human-scale networks. They're designed for the big bad internet, and that's a very different way of programming and building software. So we've built some of our own. You can go check out our GoLink tool, which is a very simple way to do short links inside a tailnet. But at heart, we're an infrastructure company. I don't expect us to go out and build all of the products and experiences that people use on top of these tailnets. And so we need to develop, foster a community of developers who can invent new kinds of network software. And that's really my primary interest in being here today. It's about talking to developers about what it is you want to do with these networks. And so our dream, very much my dream from the beginning, which you can read about in a very old blog post, is about making software much easier to write and making it much more fun to write, because it's built for your community of people, a small, trusted network of humans. You write software very differently when you know the 5 other people using it. You don't have to worry so much about all of the various authentication and authorization stories that go into something, about making sure the backup's in the right place, about making sure history is preserved in case someone mucks it up. There's just 5 people. You just go knock on their doors and you'll be like, hey, Bob, what did you do to the website? And so you've used Tailscale, to share home media servers. You've used it to, you put Tailscale on vacuum cleaners and Kindles and in drones and in cars. It is a lot of fun stuff. Tailscale can run in a lot of places, and I think eventually it can run anywhere. And it can be a building block for this new infrastructure. But then we need the things that go on top of it. So for you to invent these new kinds of programs, you're going to need things from Tailscale. Examples of this with a GoLink command, the Tailscale serve command, which makes it really easy to run a web server on your tailnet, because it takes care of the TLS certificates for you and makes it work really well. Gives you a nice name for it. Or TSNet, which is our library for embedding Tailscale into an application. which again makes it very easy to write software that exists on your tailnet. And so today, we're here to sort of embody this. We're here to serve you. We're here to figure this out so that we know what we have to do next so that you can do what you need to do next. We're here to help you connect people. And so I'm going to introduce some features. I'm going to have some fun here. I said a moment ago that it's humbling being here, seeing everyone out, to talk about something we built. This is the second humbling moment in the talk, which is a lot for before lunchtime. But I get to present a whole lot of features that were built by an amazing team of engineers, product managers, and designers. And you see my face, even though it's all these other people, many of whom are around the edges, but many of whom are not here today who did the work. So let me, with that in mind, present these things. So I want to go back right to the beginning of developer experience and dig into sort of the day-to-day of software development. You might be building or testing something locally. You might need to share it with a colleague or for feedback. And we talked about this Tailscale serve command, which is in this space. You need to test a webhook, which means some external service needs to reach back into your laptop. Maybe you use Tailscale at work. You're collaborating with a friend. A few months ago, to help with these scenarios, we introduced Tailscale Funnel, which lets you take a port on your local machine and share it out to the public internet. And it gives you automatically a TLS certificate. It gives you a stable DNS name. The idea is it makes it easy to use. That said, Funnel is buried on the command line, along with just about every other amazing Tailscale feature. And we want to bring Funnel to you. And so where are you? Which is a question we asked a few months ago. We're trying to figure out what people are. And someone said VS Code, which makes a lot of sense because VS Code is very popular. Some people claim it's the most popular. Maybe. It's some of these statistics are a little hard to come by. You want to do a show of hands? Who here uses VS Code? Oh, well, that's easily more than half the room. That's okay. Yeah, all right. Maybe someone got that right. People are in VS Code. Okay, so we built a VS Code Tailscale extension, which we're launching today that you can try out as a beta. And the idea is it makes it really easy to use Funnel. And so let me ruin everything by trying to do a demo. So let's give this a try. Make it bigger. That's a very reasonable request. Oh, look, I was able to make it bigger. I wasn't expecting that to work. Let's try this. Okay, directory. I've got a file. I am building a little server, which I will now run. And I made it so big that it won't appear. Well, it worked the last time I tried it. So Tailscale Funnel, the extension, what it usually does is it pops up a little notification in the corner here saying you've just shared out a port. Would you like to see it again? I will, for the sake of, because I have a couple extra minutes, I will try it again. It doesn't remember anything. That's all right. I can type. I did actually test this bit, just so you know. There we go. I got there eventually. So any mechanism you use to start a server inside VS Code will trigger this, which is great. You've got a little run button in the corner that's run by one of these other extensions for programming language. So you hit serve, and then it's done. It's served. And so we copy the URL, and then we try to visit it. There we go. That's my little Python web server serving up this file. Yep. Honestly, the thing I'm most impressed by is that I remembered to put it in a subdirectory, so I'm not sharing out my whole home directory. This is over Funnel. So if you go to that URL right now on your phone, you'll see this little Python web server running. Because this is shared out onto the public internet, even though it's a ts.net address, this is generally available. If you try doing that, I don't know what will happen because I didn't test that. But in theory, it should work. All right, now the hard part. Can we get back to the slides? Let's find out. Presenter view, that sounds like the thing I need. Yes, that's the thing I need because what if I forget what I'm doing? I need some notes. Okay, and then we'll do this, which is probably not the right kind of full screen. It is, there you go. Just for once, I got it right. So that's our VS Code extension, which is our first wonderful feature we're announcing. And now I'd like to talk about our next interesting feature we're launching. In particular, this is around identity and how you log into systems. So this came up a lot when we started Tailscale because I briefly, in my career, one of my past careers, had to sit next to a team that manages identity login abuse for passwords at a large organization. And there were a lot of 1,000-yard stares at the desks next to me. It's hard, and it requires a large, complex team. And I learned over lunch all the terrible edge cases of managing your own identity system. And so I said, no, I'm not going to do that because I just didn't have the time. And so we simplified things, and we said you can log in with Google or you can log in with Microsoft. You can have any color you want as long as it's big tech. This was basically because we had limited resources, right? I spent maybe a week building the OAuth flow and then didn't think about it again for months. And that's roughly the amount of time I had. I think underneath that desire not to have to go through that terrible process of passwords, there's actually a principle at work, which is that modern security-conscious software cannot rely on passwords. I should say that as a founder, one of my jobs is to sort of backdate all of our principles to right at the beginning of the company, because obviously we knew what we were doing from the first day. The truth of it is you sort of figure it out as you go along. You have an instinct for it, and then you figure out how to put it into words. The horror of passwords is something that took us a little while to wrap our heads around, but it's so clearly true. Our industry has been kicking the can on passwords for decades. The very name is a relic of a bygone era, password. You secure access to a resource using a word. I was a small child when the dictionary attack was invented, and we stopped using words, and we got new guidance on how to choose passwords. And then we got more new guidance on how to choose passwords, and more. It changed again and again. And current best practices tell us to manage passwords with a password manager. And that even if you have software managing this for you because it's too hard for a human to manage a password, you still need a second factor because it's still not good enough. So we said no to passwords, and it was limiting. There were users who wanted to sign in and didn't want to use Google or Microsoft, and that hurt us and it hurt them, and that's not great. But it was a principled decision we had to make. And then slowly we tried to improve the state of things. We added GitHub login, we added sign in with Apple. Most recently, we added custom OIDC, which is great. You can bring up your own OIDC server or someone can run one for you. And we have a whole bunch of corporate options like Okta, OneLogin, all of these things that you have to pay for. But while we were avoiding passwords, because they don't work, the industry kept working on this inside some of those very large companies I was talking about, and they developed something new, which is the passkey. And so passkeys are a password replacement. These are an entirely new approach to how we think about our authorization. So it's a public-private key pair. The private key you store it on a device, you store it in an end-to-end encrypted cloud replicated system, and then you have a PKI flow with the service that you're logging into that uses it. And it's very complex under the hood. This is all based on the WebAuthn API in your web browser. But the user experience can actually be pretty straightforward. It's a touch ID. You touch your fingerprint, and you're done. You're good to go. One of the big distinctions, though, is this is effectively only your second factor. This is the technology we've been using for our high-end second factor, not like our traditional 6-digit OTPs, but like the really good stuff, the security keys. And the realization the industry's come to is that second factor is actually all you need. That can be your primary factor, and you're done. You don't need passwords anymore. So today, you can use passkeys to authenticate to Tailscale. You can build an account with them. You can log into your Tailnet using an identity you store on your device or your keychain. And you don't need to be tied to an identity provider. You don't need to use a big tech company to do it, or anyone else. And I am going to try and demo that. And I'm sure it'll go great. There was a pause for applause in the slides with a question mark after it, and I wasn't sure if I should. I really appreciate those. That was very nice of you all. So let's close the Python web server, and let's try using a different web browser so that I don't break everything. Let's try this one. See what happens. Let's go to Tailscale. So this is a very this is the screen you see if you try to log into the admin panel. It's also the screen we show you if you go through one of the auth provider links inside the the actual client. And so you can see we've got a new button that we added, and this is what it looks like. You click it, and you get this lovely little flow that says touch the Touch ID, which I'll do. And it spins and does a lovely little animation, and then it doesn't work. That's thank you. I do have two of them. Let's see if the other one works. It does. Yes. Basically, my only trick in life is always having something up my sleeve. There you go. So this is a passkey-based account, and you can see up here we use this @passkey to give us a nice global namespace, and then you have a username associated with it you pick as you sign up, and they're really neat. They're great. However, they're really great, and I think that demo was terrific for sort of showing you that the user experience of using a passkey can be really nice, but it doesn't capture the what's so interesting about the underlying technology, which is that, yes, I can use my Touch ID, I can store the private key in my iCloud keychain. It can be end-to-end encrypted so Apple can't read it, which is very fancy, and I'm very impressed they made that work. But it doesn't really feel very different than signing in with Apple. It's basically the same screen, it's the same motion, and you log in. But there is a way, if we're really game, to try and demo passkeys. Here we go. Let's go 3 for 3. Let's see if this one works the first time. So I have another tailnet on this, which is a nice little YubiKey. So this is a tailnet, and I'm going to log in with it. And it's the only key pair for accessing that tailnet. And let's see what happens. We click here, and the login flow isn't quite as suave as the other one. You have to scroll here. I'm going to file a bug with Apple about that. This is not my user interface. You pick security key. You hit continue. If you find bugs in our user interfaces, please file bugs. We have, I'm sure we have many. You hit this, you hit use security key, you don't touch the thing. There's a PIN code now. I don't know why they did that, but they did. It's fine. You hit the PIN code, you try logging in again, and look at that, a demo worked first time. If you have enough demos, one of them has to work. It's just you just solve the problem with you just drown it in numbers. So yeah, that's my tailnet. That's all I need. And I think this really gets at the sort of value of this technology. That like it's very hard to extract the private key from this thing. It's definitely not something I will be trying to do anytime soon. Right now, our implementation of passkeys has one big limitation because there's a lot more to managing an identity system than just making sure people's passwords are good, as I learned many years ago. And the way we're dealing with that is to use a passkey account, you first have to be invited from an existing tailnet. So inside the user panel over here, I still luckily have up, there's an invite users button, which you can use to generate a link to invite someone to use a passkey account. Once you've done that, you're both in that tailnet and you're in a new tailnet for that passkey. And so you have a fully fledged passkey-based tailnet. We're doing this just to be able to tie back the origins of passkeys and understand, if it becomes an abuse vector, we can figure out sort of who is doing the abuse, or at least who is doing the abuse and steps removed. Anyway, I'm very excited about this. I feel like with passkeys, I'm finally confident that the industry has a viable replacement for passwords. People have been talking about this for a very long time, and they keep not delivering. I think they might have delivered. I showed you a Safari login flow here. It also works in Chrome. This is very browser compatible. It's a fundamentally good technology, and everyone should end up using it. And I look forward to in old age having to explain to the kids what rotary phones are, and what floppy disks were, and what passwords were. Because let's just get rid of them. Now the slides. Wherefore are our slides? Here we go. I'm going to make them full screen, even though what could possibly go wrong? I have one more feature to announce because 2 wasn't enough. We'll go for 3. Again, just to get the demo count up so that something works. A few weeks ago, we introduced a new sort of pricing scheme for Tailscale that I quite like. We made the free plan more free, and you can play with that phrase by like choosing how to capitalize the F in free to make it really fun. But basically, we said that anyone who signs up, you don't just get one user anymore on like a free plan. You can have 3, which again 3 free 3. It gets fun. I'm very fond of this. It's great to make a pricing change and give more things away, which is what we did. It's my favorite way to change pricing. And so, what does this mean? So when you sign up for Tailscale, there's sort of 2 fundamental ways you can do it. You can either go through a flow which involves a custom domain, which is what happens when you sign up using your Google Workspace or your Okta account. Widget.co gets a tailnet. Everyone at the widget.co address ends up in that tailnet. That's really easy. The concept of users makes a lot of sense there. But if you as an individual sign up with your Gmail account, you, until today, got a tailnet with one user in it, which is named after the Gmail user, and that was it. And we have node sharing as a feature that you can use to sort of connect some of your machines to other people's networks, but you can't add users to those tailnets. So we thought we should maybe consider fixing that, and so we did. You can now invite users from other domains to your tailnet. I feel like this is one of those features where it either solves a huge problem you had and is life-changing, or you'll just say, so what? But for me, it's life-changing. There's a lot of annoying edge cases that I can finally fix by building tailnets of multiple users without having to have a domain name, without having to have an identity provider that serves out that domain name, which is surprisingly hard to come by. And you can build this this tailnet you want out of anyone. You can invite your elderly neighbor who runs their own custom OIDC system and use their account. You can invite your brother in Sweden who uses sign in with Apple. Your best friend from middle school who she insists on using her Hotmail address. You can have them in there too. You've got options. And being able to build these tailnets out of your friends and family, I think, is key for that sort of trusted human scale network I was talking about. We need to be able to bring anyone and everyone from anywhere into this network for you. So let me do an invite. Am I over time? See, this is what happens when you let me get on stage. I just keep talking. So this is a very small button on a very big screen. I got it. So let me do this demo. I mean, I have this account already up here. So this is the invite users button I showed you earlier. So now you pick what sort of role you want them to have. So an admin by default gets the admin panel, can invite more users, all of these things. So by default, it's a member who can see the machines but can't control all of it. Generate and copy an invite link. You can see this new entry here. And if we go to a browser, you'll see, you know what? Before I go to the browser, let me remember how this works. I'll log out. So now I am a different person who I send this link to over Signal, or I sent this link in an email, however you like to move things around. And you have been invited to join my Passkey tailnet. So you can sign in with Google, and we can add my Gmail account to this. And you are invited to join this Passkey network. We'll join it. There we go. So now this little Passkey network has my Passkey user and my Gmail user. And you can do this with any of our logins. I think there might be a caveat for GitHub right now. We're trying to fix that. GitHub is complicated, more complicated than it looks. So I hope 3 new features was fun. I hope it's worth coming out to see. I hope you're as excited about these feature announcements as we are. We are genuinely excited about these things. These are just huge problems in our world. We want to be able to bring Tailscale to more developers and show them the features we have. We want new ways of logging in that don't tie us to identity providers, and we want to be able to bring anyone we like to our tailnets. These are all personal pain points the team feels, and our users feel because they tell us. And I'm really thankful you were here to join us today to see that and to see the rest of Tailscale Up, because I think we have some amazing talks coming up. That'll be a lot of fun. And so as you meet Tailscalers around here today, many of whom are wearing shirts with the logo on it, please let them know what you'd like to see in the product. Please thank them for all the amazing work they do building the product. These are the people who make it happen. I really appreciate seeing you all. Thank you for being here.